Good afternoon. I'm Susan Anderheggen from Lewis. There's an article on the cover of this week's Cape Gazette entitled "Sussex Subdivision Standards Could Be Amended." One of the concerns has to do with perimeter buffers. The article states that perimeter buffers are a hot-button issue for the Council and the public. I agree, and I'm happy that these standards are being discussed. However, I'm here today to say that there's something the P&Z Commission and staff can do today that's needed in Sussex County. I've recently learned that when an approved development plan says that the developer needs to plant a tree buffer, the time frame to do so is incredibly amorphous. I live in Tidewater Landing on Robinsonville Road in Lewis, which is adjacent to Chase Oaks, a development in progress. On the Chase Oaks development plan, it clearly states that the landscape and/or forest buffer shall be installed within 18 months from the date site work is authorized to commence, as documented by a notice to proceed letter from the Commission. The plan includes a detailed tree buffer adjacent to Tidewater Landing. At Tidewater Landing, we've been anxiously counting the months until the 18-month mark, which should have been May 2023, because in November 2021, the Chase Oaks developer clear-cut the natural mature tree buffer that was adjacent to Tidewater Landing and started doing site work. The roads were paved next to us and ponds were dug adjacent to our community, yet no buffer has been replanted. When I spoke to P&Z staff, including a phone call with Jamie Whitehouse, I came to learn that Chase Oaks Phase 6, which is technically adjacent to Tidewater Landing, has not yet been given the notice to proceed by P&Z. Phase 5 was given notice to proceed in 2021, and Phase 5 is right next to Tidewater Landing, but on the plan, the forested buffer is specified as Phase 6. So even though a tremendous amount of site work adjacent to our community began to proceed in 2021, according to P&Z, the clock has not yet started to tick. This is incredibly unfair to the adjacent homeowners who had to watch the mounds of dirt and site work 20 months ago, just to learn that this buffer replanting is not imminent or even part of a countdown. The approved condition of replanting is rendered meaningless. At the current rate of construction, what if Phase 6 starts in 10 years? Or what if it never starts? P&Z needs to examine the way the buffer replanting is being implemented today. It's broken. It should not be by phase. It should be based on development start. There also clearly needs to be a no later than clause. If Chase Oaks never starts their Phase 6, then we are left without the promised and approved buffer. I'm begging you, please relook at how this is being implemented by P&Z staff in the field. Otherwise, the buffer requirements P&Z Commission is approving are rendered meaningless. Thank you.
All right, we thank you. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Mr. Whitehouse.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just to confirm that staff have had a conversation on this topic and we've had a very productive back and forth. This comes down to when a subdivision is implemented and fragmented into phases, each phase is almost treated as a separate entity and then staff will manage each section separately. In this case, there is an 18-month time period from which we'd expect a buffer to be planted, but it's in a future phase than the one that's currently being worked on. I understand the frustration when a development is phased, but there are practical reasons why we do this because of the way of earth being moved on the site. It's an interesting suggestion to explore this, but it must be balanced against the way a subdivision is physically built on the site. I'm happy to continue the conversation. It is an interesting suggestion, but
again,
yeah.
If you look at the map, I know you don't want to be here to argue with me, but they specifically put the buffer in a different phase.
I appreciate that, and it is and I can tell you that the Commission does have some concern about that, and we'll see if we can't do something with that at some point here in the future. Okay, who else? Who else would like